Hello everybody, Bruce here with a very informal video giving you a video demonstration of what I expect to see from Lab 5. And if you carefully examine the URL here, the URL has no query parameters on it. So the script is generating the fact that the three query parameters that I'm expecting to see, people, avatars, and bios, right, bios, are not present. So I'm going to go here and add question mark people. That's how you place a query parameter on the URL. Okay, and there it is, and it's saying, notice that the PHP script came back and said, hey, you have an error. You need to include a number when you put the people parameter. And now I'm going to put a number. It says from 1 to 10. So I'll say people equals, and then I'll say 10. And then you can see that I no longer have an error, or an error is not being displayed. That's all well and good. If I do put, say, 11, which is out of bounds, my code throws an error back and says, hey, I see the parameters there, but it's not between the numbers 1 and 10. So let me put this back to, say, 10. And you can see we have two more query parameters that are being looked for here. And I'm going to put ampersand. That's the second way you put a query parameter in the URL, and now it's looking for let me spell it right, avatars, and it says, I see that you have avatars, but the value has to be Y or N, so now I'm just going to make it equals the letter Y or the letter N, and you can see now I only have one error left, which says you need a bios parameter, so I'm going to add with an ampersand, and I'll put bios equals, I don't know, T, right? And it still says, hey man, I'm looking for a Y or an N. So I'm going to put this as a Y, and then all the parameters have been met, are there, and they're within range, and now it displays from the three paired arrays, right, all the data. So what I do, right, in my solution is I first check, right? I'm going to go back here. I first check to make sure I have all these three things and they are within bounds, right? And as I get a successful query parameter and value, I set a variable to a Boolean that says, yeah, you got the people, you got the avatars, you got the bios. And then I use those flags later on in the program to say, if you have those three variables and they're all true, then you can go and iterate through the number of people that are on the query parameter right here, which is 10, right? So if I made this, say, let me go back and change the URL here. I'm going to make it a Y. And I say I only want the number 1 here, right? It only shows one head, right? Notice, I wanted to show you this too, because this came up as a question, right? So let me show you this, right? 10, yeah, right there. So notice that Joe has a male head right here, and Gail has a female head, right? In position 0 of the people array is Joe's name. In position 0 of the avatars array is the malehead.png, right? And in the bios position 0 is this title. So when I loop around, right, looping for, 0 to the number of people, or less than the number of people, right, I go to element 0 of each of those arrays and I generate the appropriate HTML. And I use the flags, the variables that I spoke of earlier, to determine whether or not I need to show the heads or not. Actually, I created additional variables that said, hey, I need to show the avatars when I loop through, or I don't need to show the avatars when I, loop through and show all this stuff. So if I say no here, right, if I say no bios, right, it loops through and it shows the heads, but it eliminates the bios because I set a flag that said, hey, Bruce didn't want the bios to show. So when you're looping through those arrays to generate all this HTML, I have an if statement that says, hey, if the user didn't want to see the bios, then don't show them. Or if they did, show them. Okay? So go over this video a couple more times. I have office hours Monday through Thursday. I've seen only a few of you, and I know that this lab is a challenge, but it really isn't if you break the problem down, and if you also look at the pseudocode that I posted in Slack a few days ago. If you've watched this video and want some brownie points, let me know on Slack that you watched it and got this far. Thanks.